in my experience, I've been doing this for 5 years. I started the company when I was 24. I'm 29. I don't think a single person like straight up asked me how old I was. And we were talking about it backstage. And I think it might have to do with the fact that it might be incredibly offensive to ask me what age I am. But people would try to ask me like questions that were trying to get at that question for sure. So like I would get a lot of questions around like, are you married? Like, do you have kids? Like my daughter, like who's probably your age, like things like that.
Yeah, so April, just a few weeks ago, we announced that you were the youngest female founder at, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Which obviously you're a bit older than Sean. Why do you think that so fewer women, and particularly women of color, hit that stage?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I would say I think I have a unique perspective in that I'm a young woman and I'm Korean. And in Korean culture, there's a pretty rigid hierarchy around age. Like it's very extreme Confucianism where you can be a month older than someone or a month younger than someone, and it'll dictate your entire social interaction and the code of conduct that you have with that person. And so I kind of was confronted with ageism, I guess, and then sexism throughout my journey, but also there was this like extra layer where I was like trying to deprogram myself of this like psychological or social script that I had of like how to act around older people. And so, to go back to your question around like, why do I think that there are so few young women, particularly of color? I think it comes down to two things. Like the first is I think that women are more risk averse, and I don't think biologically. I think it's unfortunate that in the patriarchal world that we live in, we are socially inclined in that way. And I think that I hear a lot of young women ask me or tell me, oh, I need to do this and this and this before I can start a company like you. And I don't hear men have quite the same attitude. And I find that women have like these artificial qualifications that they make up for themselves before they give themselves permission to dive in. And the second reason why I think that there aren't a lot of young women of color doing this is because I think we're up against our biological clock. This is something that like men don't have to think about at all. But like there's this finite period of time where women can bear children, and like, Sheryl Sandberg's written about it and how like women kind of maneuver their careers around this like period of time. And it absolutely affects me. I think about like when I'm gonna squeeze my children in and at what age. And I think that limits women. And I think women tend to like potentially, delay their entrepreneurship later. But I will say, just based on my experience, I think it's like the perfect age to dive in to being a founder when you're like in your early and mid 20s, because you don't have to worry about that for a long time, and you could just like thrust yourself into the entrepreneurial journey with everything, and you don't have much to lose. So